I want to talk about something that's so vitally important during times of transition. I want to talk about pruning, the role that it plays, the importance of it, and how it interrelates with some other factors that are going on in the congregation's life. Henry Cloud said, pruning is a process of proactive endings. It's often something that we talk about when we're on the front end of the transitional process during the time of closure, dealing with these endings, but it's a part of a bigger picture that I want to sort of set it in that context. John 15, verse 1 and 2 says, I am the true vine and my Father is the gardener. Thing to remember about pruning is that we are not actually doing the work of pruning. The Father does that work. We need to keep that in mind. We work alongside of the Father as his agents of change, his fellow gardeners, but he actually carries that role of pruner. Thank goodness, who does the pruning. It says there, he cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. There are a few types of pruning that the Father is involved in. I mean, you prune healthy buds, which was referred there in chapter 15, but you also prune the dead wood, and you also prune any disease that might be in those branches that may affect the whole. A fourth reason is you prune out, especially when it comes to rose bushes. I just heard this last week. You prune the branches that are growing inward so that the ones that are growing outward will have the sap and the energy flow to them. I thought that was a very interesting insight around pruning. But pruning fits into this bigger picture. So abiding, we abide in Christ, he abides in us, and we experience growth, and eventually we bear fruit. But you can't remain in a season of fruit indefinitely. There comes a time when the season of fruitfulness needs to move back into a season of abiding. And this is where the pruning happens. The pruning happens after a season of fruitfulness. It's then when those excess branches are taken off. It's then when the dead wood is taken off and burned and the disease branches are taken off. And it moves us into a season of abiding. And I think in transition, it's a good way to think about it, is that when it's the season to move into abiding and listening and discerning what is God up to, season of maybe some healing and maybe dealing with your history and letting go of the past, to me, that's a perfect time to allow ourselves and to help guide congregations to go into this season of abiding. And on the journey, on the way there, let the Father do the pruning that's required so that when they're ready to move back into a season of fruitfulness, the excess branches, the dead wood, the disease, the internal branches are lopped off, and then they are able to grow into another season of fruitfulness, and where the work they're doing is making an impact. So there's a quick explanation of this rhythm that we want to help congregations with as we come alongside of them, dealing with both learning to abide, learning to be patient in that land between. This can feel like that neutral zone, but helping them realize that a season of fruitfulness will come again, but appreciating that after that season of fruitfulness, pruning is a very natural process that the Father takes us through as we move into a season of waiting, of winter, so that when spring comes, the pruning's been done and the growth, those new shoots can form and shoot up out where the sunlight is and gather that rain, so that the fruitfulness can actually be produced in that congregation. The same is true for our own lives. To welcome the Father's pruning after a season of fruitfulness to embrace those seasons of rest and abiding, and then to move out of that with new growth so that the new fruit, the new season, the new fall, and the harvest can be realized. I hope that's helpful. Leave me a comment. Let me know any other ideas that you might have about how to think about pruning in the context of transition. I'd love to hear about that. Thanks and have a great day.